is now currently in private practice. And the clinical director of the Paul Robeson School, a very pivotal person in the whole area of the black mind. As I mentioned last night, she was virtually fired from Howard University for thinking independently, which is not unusual. But she has done serious research on this whole question of AIDS. We had her at we run a holistic retreat every year over the Memorial holiday. Other people celebrate Memorial Day. A large group of Africans in this country are celebrating our split. And we run a retreat each year. For the last 2 years, we've had Dr. Welsing come up and spend some time with us. It's a 3-day retreat. I'll talk a little bit more about that tonight. But she has been a person that has essentially galvanized a lot of people around this country to begin to rethink a lot of things. As mentioned last night, we're trying to encourage her to finish this book, The ISIS Case. I found you editor, Carol Marks. She said, look how cute. I only edited, that's the problem. I want you all to give a warm welcome to our dear Dr. Cress-welsing.
Thank you very much, Hakeem. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to...
Can't hear too well.
Can't hear. Mic on?
On, man. Can we turn it up? That's it. Right.
Well, let me say that I'm very glad to be home. Can you hear? Well, I'm very glad to... All right, well, I will try to do my best to talk up a little bit. I'm glad to be home and to see my family. I have a mother here and a younger sister and a nephew and an adopted nephew, Tiachi Green. I would like to share on this very important occasion of the 20th anniversary of Third World Press. I would like to share with this audience some of my thinking and to share some conclusions about where we are at this point in time in this area of the world and throughout the world. I would like to begin by maybe making these remarks a memorial tribute to Mayor Harold Washington.
All right.
That I was shocked to hear of his death in Washington. And I was shocked at how shocked I was, if you understand what I'm saying. That I walked around in a state of shock, and it's still very hard for me to think that he is no longer with us. And as I drove around Chicago from Midway Airport to home and to my sister's house and driving up and down the streets, I kept saying, oh, wow, the streets are clean. And it seemed as though there was another vibration in this city where I was born. And I think Harold Washington had a very profound impact. And I like to look at events that we consider to be tragic and say, what kind of lesson is to be learned from something that, we feel is pain? And I believe that there are some very important lessons that we can gain from Mayor Harold Washington. And I think that his passing may be a test for black people in the city of Chicago. And the question is whether or not the people in Chicago, the black people, rise to the occasion to show Harold Washington that he is still here. But we can talk about that further. I think that the thing that we must do as black people is to begin to have a very clear context in which we do our thinking. That events never occur in the abstract. They are always occurring in particular patterns, and they are occurring in relationship to other things. And when I talk to black people across this country, and I've recently come back from England and talked to black people there, and I say that there's a clue to what ails us to some extent, and it's how we greet each other. Many of us greet each other by saying, "What's happening? Hey, what's happening?" And I say that's because we don't really understand what is going on. That when we really understand what is going on, we will be able to say, like some other people, "How do you do?" But we are constantly saying, "What's happening?" Now, I would like to share my idea about what is happening and the context in which I do my thinking and in which I understand world events. And that goes to the issue of white supremacy. We've used the word racism for a long time, or we've used the word discrimination. But I am using the phrase white supremacy and in parenthesis racism. Or the other way around, racism and in parenthesis white supremacy, but the emphasis being on white supremacy. And I say that this is the thing that we must understand. That we are not going to be able to understand black male-female relations. We are not going to be able to understand teenage pregnancies. We are not going to be able to understand drug addiction. We are not going to be able to really understand the tendency to have trash build up around us in the places where we live unless we come to grips with white supremacy. What is this white supremacy? And I want everybody to take out a little piece of paper and get a pencil and write this name and write this telephone number down. The name is Neely Fuller, N-E-E-L-Y, Fuller, F-U-L-L-E-R, and his phone number is area code 202-484-5461. This gentleman is the author of a book called The Textbook for Victims of Racism or White Supremacy. I would recommend, this book costs about $25, 25 or 30. I consider it to be a very, very important book. I worked with this gentleman 17 years.